Our final conversation for today is going to be on youth and setting the political agenda, and we have invited Bina Maseno to come and join us. She is very many things. She is a grounds person, named to a ground, and she's been involved in matters of governance, of leadership, of youth engagement and involvement in governance of the country. And she'll tell us more about herself shortly as we welcome her. But you know what we do at the beginning of every conversation? We track what the newsroom is tracking. We've got this update from Haiti on what happened to our soldier. Right, Mariam?
That's right. So a Kenyan police officer was killed in Haiti on Sunday in a security operation helping to combat gang violence in the Caribbean nation. He was among about 600 other Kenyan officers working as part of the Kenyan-led multinational security support mission. Since June 2024, they've been there. In a statement shared on social media, the mission force commander, Godfrey Otunge, confirmed the death without sharing any full details. He said, quote, "Today, Sunday, February 23rd, 2025, one of our MSS officers from the Kenyan contingent was injured during an operation in Segur Savien in the Artibonite department. The officer was immediately airlifted to Aspen Level 2 Hospital, but unfortunately succumbed to his injuries." In another statement, however, it emerged that residents of Seguin in Pont-Sonde had requested that officers attached to the MSS mission conduct operations in the region. This is after they conducted continuous security operations in Artibonite for days, leading to the death of several gang members. Following pleas made by residents of Seguin, the Kenyan officers, alongside those attached to the Haiti National Police, responded without hesitation. Quote, "This is the price our courageous officer paid. He was killed while fighting for the people of Haiti. His fellow officers, unwilling to accept the loss, immediately pursued and neutralized the gang members responsible." A more detailed communication on the matter has now stated. So we do have a little bit more insight as to exactly what happened, the nature of the operation, and of course the fact that, I don't know if it's any respite, but as we say, Pole to his family, the fact that those who killed him were killed. Let's say the word neutralized, but yeah, essentially it's killed.
Yeah. Yeah. We also have an update. The Shah chairman, we asked him, so if people have an issue with the Social Health Authority accessing services or wherever across the country, whom do they call? Who are you going to call? And he gave us the number, which is 0800 720 601. Whenever you see an 0800 number, it means it's toll-free for the most part. So 0800 720 601. And we'll be scrolling this number on the screen for those who are watching. And it's, again, 0800 720 601. If you call that number at any time of day or night, you should be able to be attended by a SHA official who shall respond to any of your issues and needs. They also have another shorter number that he told us, but he told us we're working on this. When that number is ready, it'll be much easier to remember, much easier to also interact with our officers. Right? So let's talk about youth and youth in politics and youth inclusion in governance. Bina Maseno, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Mko salama?
Sisi wote.
I see. You know, it's important to
Sisi
ask that
wote
question
tuko salama.
because where the country is at, people are on survival mode. So it's just important to check in with how people are doing, to check in with the mental wellness of the citizens, also with the changes globally and how they're affecting people. So thanks so much for having me.
Jano will ask you, how's your heart?
I know.
Do we have, how much time do we have?
You're like, if it's been asked, how are you? Like, I can tell you, I'm okay. How is your heart? You're like, let's come
I'm
back.
like, yeah,
This
how much,
one.
yeah.
It's a whole conversation.
I'm like, how much time do we have for that?
Right.
You know,
Wow.
yeah, but I'm okay. I'm glad I have good health. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I met you at, was it 2013 that you vied for a seat?
Yes.
2013.
Yes.
If you think back at Bina then, Bina today, would you still vie? Coming into 2027, how different is your mindset? Not that you're vying, but how much have you shifted then and now? And tell us about what you vied for.
Yeah. So first of all, I think, especially as young people in this country, you don't have an option when it comes to engaging with political processes. Because, you know, you might not have an interest in politics, but politics will always have an interest in you. You see, that's the thing. You're either acting or being acted upon. So we have no choice, you see. You know, I like quotes by even leaders who've gone before us. you know, the tomboyers who say there's no savior. You know, it's up to us to organize, to mobilize. So I ran for office when I was 22 in 2013, which came at a very high cost, because at the time I lost my scholarship, you know, because, you know, when you have been supported by well-wishers in your education journey, then you take the political terrain in terms of running for office, people think you're not serious because you have really begged for school fees for a long time. But at the time I ran for office, I saw a gap in my community. I saw a gap in terms of having new perspectives. I saw a gap in terms of new ideas. I saw a gap in terms of us organizing, and I wanted to be part of that change to make things work in my community, you know. So I always joke with some of my friends that I grew up with in Kayole, and I always say that growing up, I actually didn't know we were poor. You know, it's like when you grow up in the rural areas, you don't know you're actually poor because all of you live in, you know, either it is grass-thatched houses, you know, the clothes you guys wear, until you leave your community and you actually see people have access to basic needs. You actually realize that it's in your area where you don't have water flowing through your taps every day. And I think for me, I always say in this country, if a president can walk in any home and open a tap and there's no water, that's how you know you're failing. That's how you know you're failing. If you can walk in a community and you fear being shot, you fear being robbed, and it's not even yet night, it's not even yet 7, that's how you know you're failing. If you walk in a community and children don't even have a playing ground, you know, I see in most informal settlements, children playing in sewer, you know, that's how you know you're failing. And sometimes I'm like, even these reports we are reading, whether it's from our high offices in State House, just take a walk, you know, just take a walk, just get off your car, just walk. Take a walk and you will get to see firsthand. When people say they are on survival mode, when people are struggling and they're not sure about tomorrow, you'll get to interact with those people. Because sometimes when we read reports that, you know, people live under $1 a day, sometimes these statistics, they don't humanize the people. You don't see the faces. So when you say 57% or when you say 60%, it's not easy for anyone to just calculate what is 60% of Nairobi residents. You see, like for instance in Nairobi, we have about 4 million residents, but 60% of Nairobi residents live in the informal settlement. So it's not, sometimes it's not easy to actually visualize. We're talking about over 2 million people who live in the informal settlement. And that's why you need to actually take a walk in the communities where you're saying you want to interact with the people and see firsthand that every other day people are worried, will I get past today?
Right.
Yeah.
Over the last like maybe year or so, we've seen obviously a really good political involvement from young people, I would say. People are awake to the matters of the day. They're holding their leaders accountable. They're willing to go to the streets. But it doesn't seem to have crossed over to a need to participate actively in elective politics. How do we bridge that gap? Because we still don't have young people saying, we have a few saying, you know what, I'm joining this political party. Kasmal has joined ODM. Okay, fine. That's one out of, you know, thousands who are on the street saying something needs to change. How do we bridge that gap? Because we know the importance of being in elective politics, but I think for a lot of young people, it's I don't feel like I belong in a party one, and I don't think I can make the change. I'm better off out here.
1,000 ways to die.
Yeah, it's
that's how somebody.
True.
Yeah.
Yes, it's 1,000 ways to die.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, when you talk about political participation, running for office is just one of them. Young people are engaging in political processes every day. Young people are holding Twitter spaces where they're actually breaking down information about what is happening in the country, where they're joining forces with millennials, Gen X, to break down information about what is happening in the country. And I think there are many barriers to why, especially young people, don't just turn up in their numbers to participate in political processes. Number one, it's the resources that are needed to run an effective campaign. And when you talk about resources, it's just not money that you're giving people. It's moving from point A to B. It's communicating. It's your merchandise. The networks that are needed, you see. So for instance, I was 22 when I ran for office, yeah? Most of my friends were my classmates who would not even turn up to a political rally because number one, they're afraid their parents will be asking them, what are you doing that political rally? You're 22, you're supposed to be in class, studying. Unafaa kwa class, unafanya nini kwa siasa? So it means even if I had to ask my friends to contribute, it's actually students like me. You see, I didn't have the social capital that I have right now, where I know, for instance, in the next election, I expect Janet to give me $1 million. and I expect Eric here to give me 2 million. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had not built that social capital at the time, you see? So, and one thing I think we have to realize as young people is, despite the challenges that we see, right, currently, in terms of engaging in political processes, we must understand that we might not have the financial muscle, but then we have the numbers. Then how do we turn our numbers
into
as political capital for engaging? Because you will never compete with someone who's amassed wealth since Moi's time. You see, for me right now, you're here trying to buy a shamba in Kamulu. You're competing with someone who, if they sell a quarter of their shamba, they're selling a quarter of their shamba in Karen. How much will your Kamulu shamba fetch vis-a-vis a quarter in Karen?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's ideally what we are saying, that someone already has collateral. They are ahead of the game when it comes to how they want to engage. Look at their social capital. Look at their proximity to people who make decisions within a political party. So as the political elite are consolidating their power, we must consolidate our own power as young people. And I think that is where I see a bit of a gap. A bit of a gap in terms of understanding that even with the Gen Z protests that we've been seeing and the uprising we've been seeing across the African continent, especially as young people, we need to understand that there's already a script in terms of how governments respond to that nature of organizing, to that nature of uprising. You see, number one, to repress. You will see how they use force, police brutality, to ensure that you guys actually submit to the authorities. You will see how they co-opt people, yeah? You'll see how they co-opt people, how they co-opt a few individuals. But then this particular government is even finding it hard to co-opt, because even during the Gen Z protest, guys were saying, I don't want your job. We're not looking for position. So ideally, with governments that are used to saying, I'll give you this position, you come work for me, then they're dealing with a young population that is saying, I don't want your job. I just want you to do your job effectively. Right. I want you to be accountable. I want you to tekeleza katiba. I want you to fulfill your promises. And then we see deflecting. Deflecting issues, yeah? So you don't focus on what really, really, really matters. And I think for us, we have to get to a point where you understand that, so that we are not able to be fragmented within ourselves. Because then if we don't understand that, then at the end of the day, you're fragmented and you're not able to consolidate your power and fight back, fight an oppressive regime. Yeah.
But then, okay, some words were once said, as the elite are consolidating their power, the youth must seize their power. Who said that? Bina Maseno, a short while ago. How do the youth, what is the power that the youth have? Because you're saying the elite are consolidating their power, their financial power,
yes,
and all. So what is it that the youth have as their power?
So number one, we have our numbers. That is number one. This country, 60% of the population is actually under 35. That is number one. Rallying around ideas. We saw even what happened with Gen Z. Perspectives. We have the opportunity to do very rigorous civic education to ensure that people are able to make informed decision. I saw what happened, especially during the Gen Z movement. It's that everyday citizens, young people, were able to take very, very complex issues and break them down for every other citizen to understand, what is this finance bill? How is it affecting me? What am I supposed to do? So we can do that. We can rally our own people. We can support people who are running for office, but then also we can ensure that we work to educate the electorate. Because I think even when we talk about young people running for office, we also have to talk about the quality of the citizens and the quality of the followership. And I think that is also the next frontier.
Quality of the citizenship, right?
Yes.
That's a big question, because a lot of the times we say, this is why we're here. It's because we elected them. We put these people in power, but the game is already rigged. By the time you're ending up at the, not rigged per se, but in a sense, yes. By the time you're at the polling station, the choices have been made for you, which then goes back to getting young people involved and actively involved. But from a larger perspective, it's so hard to do these things with the cost constraints. You've mentioned we have our numbers on our side, which is fantastic. fantastic. We do have all these things. We have the energy, the time, etc. But what we lack is sometimes the capacity. How do we get the capacity, or how do we make the capacity not an issue, for example? Because joining a political party can be free, but running for office is expensive, right? Is there any work that we can do to make sure that it doesn't have to be an issue? I don't have to figure out how to campaign with 2 million, 10 million, 100 million. I can get my 200K from my classmates and do something.
So I'll tell you a gap that I've also seen, having been in a political campaign before, and I'll probably even pose a question here to the three of you. Has any one of you participated in the nomination process? Because I know people turn up to vote. Janet, have you participated in the nomination process?
No, I haven't.
For any political party?
No, for
The
a candidate.
presumption,
No, for a candidate.
here would be
for a
that
candidate.
I am a member of a political party, and therefore I'm participating in the political party primaries.
Have you participated in any political party primaries?
I am not a member of a political party.
Okay, have you participated in any political party primaries?
Not a member of any political party,
Elections are won 50% during the political party primaries. 50%. Like, once you have a certificate for a political party that is very popular in that community, you're 50% in. But many a times, that is not where we put our effort. We want to turn up at the ballot, but the options at the ballot were decided during the primaries. You see what I mean? When I lost in Party A, I actually went to look for a certificate in Party B. But if I had been supported adequately during the primaries, I would have probably carried the day, because I actually did try to campaign in the popular political party in my community. I have participated in party primaries, and I bet you I don't see young people participating in party primaries. I don't see young people holding debates during party primaries. I don't see us holding rigorous civic education during party primaries to tell people, hey, we're having party primaries happening on Thursday. This is what is at stake. This is what is on the ballot.
I beg to push back. Whenever you see political rallies, right? Just as the population of this country is over 60% youthful people, you will find in political rallies over 60% of the people in those rallies are youthful people. When you go to those party primaries, you'll find many of the people who are on those queues participating in the party primary are youthful people. So it's not that the youth are not engaged.
It's okay, I'm going to respond to that.
It's not that the youth are not engaged.
I'm waiting for you.
So I don't know what it is, but I'm just saying that the presumption here that, you know, this happens because the youth don't engage in party primaries, because the youth don't engage in politics. They do.
So the question she asked is in terms of when someone wants to run for office, you have your 200K. And I said, the reason I've given that example is because while she's running in party primaries, are we supporting her during the party primaries? You see what I mean? Are we supporting her to run effectively during the party primaries to win? You see, as you know, just generally, like all of us as young people, or me and you, who are quote unquote civically literate, you know, civically literate or politically literate on matters of we identify with her values, we identify with the plans that she has. So let me give you a very good example.
So the answer to that is the people who are politically literate are participating. The people who are not politically literate are not. And they're the ones who will turn up on that day of the ballot on the 9th of August, second Tuesday of August, and pretend that they are politically literate. They are the dunderheads of our politics.
So you're saying that the young people who've been showing up the way you've explained,
those ones are politically literate and they're engaged.
They're engaged,
so
but
they
are engaged. The people who sit back and they feel that they are very all-important, they will not do that. They'll only turn up on that day to vote. And they see, okay, so who is this?
Quote unquote, the non-members of political parties.
I'm only coming here to look at, I mean, I'm not even bothered about the MCA, because who are these MCA people anyway?
Right.
Two pages of MCA. I'm just caring about the governor and the president. And because the president. The rest, Missy Jui. Those are dunderheads of politics.
So,
miss me with that.
No.
Illiterate.
So, Latif, so let's unpack political literacy even further in this sense. In this sense that I'll give you a practical example, and I think Janet knows about the work that we do in the community, especially with grassroots women groups. So I'll give you a quick example. Number one, the women that we work with active in terms of participating in political processes. Very, very active. But is it meaningful? You see what I mean? Is it meaningful participation? So for instance, in the last election, we were working with leaders of women guilds, leaders of chamas, you see. Yeah. And you see one woman is in like 4 groups, literally. That means they're able to deliver like 200 people, yeah? Because ako kwa group ya soko, ako kwa group ya kanisa, ako kwa group ya vyombo, ya school fees, you see? And most of these groups are entry points for politicians in their community. But while they're entry points for politicians in the community, so someone will come and tell your mom, you know what, I hear you're the one who's influential in the market, I want you to support me, yeah? And while they are asking for that support, what is the quality of dialogue that is happening between this mobilizer and the politician? Yeah, what is the quality of dialogue? That is number one. But then number 2, do they even understand the roles of the leader they want to campaign for? For instance, last election, one of the women that we work with, one of the most fiercest mobilizer, I think we even have a film out that was screened at Westgate last year. It's called the Women Kingmakers, the women who mobilize for politicians, and the challenges they go through, but then also what it takes to mobilize for politicians. And we're like, why do you want to die for this politician? Like literally, this is a senator, you know? And she said, if this senator goes in, he has literally promised me 4 bursaries. So for me, I know my kids will be in school, yeah? So we need to actually unpack the politics of bursary. While she's saying that, does she understand the role the senator plays? You see what I mean? So at the end of the day, someone can participate within the political processes, but is it meaningful participation?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Now,
so that's where we also need to put in the work.
Between that woman and this other urbanized woman, the woman is higher, is much ahead.
Yes.
Because at least she understands that there's a position of senator, there's a position of MCA.
Yes.
This one has promised this one has promised the other, this one can do this and that. These are the people who turn up on the 2nd Tuesday of August.
Yes.
Right? Having not participated at all, do not understand the role of the MCA. Because if they did,
agree.
and I put it to you, if you did, you would consider the MCA as the most important of the 6
that is true.
that we elect.
That is so true.
The reason why we don't step out here today and ask people, who did you elect as the MCA in your ward? No, that woman, she'll tell you.
Yes.
That woman in the market, she'll tell you.
She knows.
I voted for so and so and I campaigned for so. Hata nani alikuwa anakuja kwetu and they engaged. The level of engagement notwithstanding, they engaged and they have a bit of understanding. Now the problem is us guys.
Who think.
It is the us guys.
And you see, that's why I think we need to...
your classmates.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Well, my classmates, especially my friends, have since changed, you know, literally, because I'm doing my part.
I'm using that just metaphorically.
I'm doing my part. No, but I think also when it comes to engaging, it's also how we just look at politics generally, because while also doing civic education in the last election, people were saying, I'm not going to vote because I don't like the options on the ballot. But what they meant is they don't like the presidential options on the ballot. So many people also boycotted because of the presidential options on the ballot, forgetting that we had 6 positions on the ballot. You see, so someone says, oh no, we have old people, we have the same people on the ballot. I'm like, listen, the offices with the highest turnover is actually the MCA and the MP. So when you say you're not turning up at the ballot because we have the same faces, I'm like, do you know the MCA you're going to elect? Do you know the MP you're going to elect? You know, is it the same member of parliament? Do you even know your member of parliament? Do you even know your current member of county assembly? Without also understanding that an MCA mans a ward, an MP mans a constituency. And that's where you live. So if you have a sewer system in your community, you're not going to blame it on the president. You see, if you have, an insecurity issue, if you have a district hospital that is not working, a local, dispensary that is not working, you're not going to blame it on the presidency. But then many people took a back seat. They said, you know what, I'm not going to vote because I've voted for the same people. I'm like, no, you've not voted for the same people. You forgot those other, you forgot all those other roles that are very, very integral, because as you can see, even in this country, how parliament has even been weaponized against the citizen. You see, it just tells you even how important the role of an MP is in parliament. But then the guys just didn't turn up, not even recognizing that I also need to get the right member of parliament in office, because whatever legislation they put in office is going to affect all of us in the country. And that is why I think we need to continue unpacking what it means to be an active citizen in this country.
Okay, in just a few moments, it'll be good to, if you can briefly talk to us about how Badili Africa was able to use fashion and makeup and that to integrate policies and politics, also what you'll be doing at the People Dialogue Festival, and a little bit about the Woman King. I think it's important to talk a little bit about how these projects can also act as an avenue for, participation, civic education participation. But Mariam, I think you had a question.
No, it was just this big question of, okay, fine, we're not engaging meaningfully. How do we fix it? But then I'm trying to look into the future. In your opinion, we say that a shift happened last year, something did happen. Do you foresee a future in which the engagement is meaningful? Are there signs that we're heading there? And I'll start from a basic of, we should be engaging from a party level, yes, but just something as simple as voter registration and showing up, because there was a lot of apathy with young voters in the last election. Is that trend likely to change, or are we going to end up again in a situation where I don't like who is in power, and then what do I do now? Do I start asking for a recall? Do I go back to the streets? What next?
I think what was also exciting with the Gen Z movement is that also people got to know the names of their MP. Like there's someone who didn't even know who their member of parliament was. Literally, they're like, oh. So actually, my member of parliament didn't even vote. No, you see. So there was that exposure, but also visibility of why these particular rules are so important. And we saw even young people who had even begun collecting signatures, even before IEBC is put together. They'd begun collecting signatures and saying, we need to recall this MP. People even had a list of the number one MP who needs to be recalled. There was like a whole list. The trend is not likely to stop because especially right now, people have seen real-time effects of the decisions that the political class is making and how it's impacting their lives. And that is important because one thing I think we need to realize as young people is the fact that the decisions that the political class is making are going to affect us for a longer time. We're going to live longer with those consequences. Because you can imagine someone is 60, making a decision, whether it's about climate change. Right. If they're going to die at 80, they only have 20 years to go. For you, you're 25. 20, You're going to live with a decision that someone made when they were 60, and they probably have 20 years to go. How many more years do you have to go? Right. Are all factors constant before you get to 80? So I think, number one, we're going to see a very big turnover of the current politicians in the next election. And I think that is exciting. We're going to see many more young people running for office, also being active voters. And I think for me what is exciting is the fact that even the civic ed that we're seeing right now is just not being done by people who are in the NGO space. It's actually being done by everybody. You see, your unusual influencers are the ones who are conducting civic education, which ensures that people at the local level are understanding the issues of the day every other day, and they're engaging with those issues critically to be able to have very quality conversations when it comes to public participation. And onto your question,
briefly, just so, because we know we want to cover as much ground. So just a little bit about how you came to realize, wait, an interesting way to integrate this conversation is by using avenues that might be considered a little odd and different and unconventional, yet you were able to draw people in. Tell us about that.
So after the elections, and I always like to say I didn't lose, it's because I didn't get enough votes to be elected or to be named the winner. But after that,
losing.
No. So when I went back to campus, I realized that when we're trying to have civic education dialogues, the people would come to our sessions were guys doing political science, international relations, because when they see something like democracy, shrinking civic spaces, you see. So we were attracting a certain caliber of students, and we wanted to have a space where even an engineering student is able to come to a session and understand that how am I supposed to engage in political spaces. So we decided to use an avenue that appeals especially to young women, because our efforts are skewed towards young women because they're the most left behind, actually, even when you look at their electability, when you look at their level of participation. And data has shown that the most disenfranchised lot in political participation and civic engagement is actually young women between 18 and 25 years. But then we saw when it comes to matters, fashion, makeup, they have a keen interest in it. So we began training makeup artists as civic educators. And when you come to our session, you actually get a free makeover. Then we began to just see this boom of young women coming to a session, young women who are, diverse across all the courses in the university, architects, engineers, because they just care about also how they look, you see. And then with that, we began now fusing beauty, fashion with political conversation. How is your hair a political issue in this country? Who decides how much you're going to buy your weave for? Telling, doing campaigns on this election is going to determine whether you're going to maintain your Brazilian hair or shave your hair. Like, that's how bad it is. Because someone decides how much you're going to buy that product for. And I think for us, that was a game changer. So we call these sessions political spa. That was a game changer because then people are able to locate themselves when it comes to governance issues, to say, okay, so I have a role. It's not about me sitting back and someone is going to decide. You see, I have a role to play in this particular sector. And we've taken it also to the communities where we have this conversation in salons. I know it's a bit funny, but we call it transformative gossip in salons. We're like, please don't stop gossiping, but we need to transform how you guys gossip because we need everyone on board.
To your point, I think gossip is a very important social tool. It has a negative connotation.
Yes.
Because it's mostly women who do it.
Yeah.
But gossip plays an important role.
Yeah.
How do you know
so we need to shape
to
that
stay away
gossip.
from?
Yeah, we need to shape that gossip. So we are shaping that gossip in salons as well. Yeah.
And there was also the film that you wanted me to touch on. Yes.
Talk a little bit about the film.
Okay, so number one, what even made us start filming is, like I said, we do work with grassroots women in chamas. And during election, we noticed that majority of them were being injured. They didn't have anywhere to go, you see. And one time, one woman called us and said, oh my God, we're tired of being collateral damage. Because you see, in a political rally, when there's danger, the first person to be evacuated is the politician. But the mobilizer remains on ground. You see, the mobilizer is the person where people knows where they live. People don't know where the politician lives. And even before the politician comes to the community, they first of all have to check with their mobilizers. How is the ground? Is it safe for me? So if the ground is unsafe, they don't even come. But then if it gets unsafe while they are there, they're the first people to be evacuated. So we had cases of women who are politically active as campaigners being injured. We even had one who died, in the last election. And I remember the other campaigner said, our political party didn't even put a statement, even just a statement to say we've lost a mobilizer. You see, so it even shows you how we look at political participation and engagement. But then more than that, we were looking at the quality of their participation because, like we said, when we talk about how we're going to influence meaningful participation in political processes, it is them also understanding their role in delivering the leaders that we see. Because if one woman can deliver 400 people because of the groups that they are in, then they're part of the people who are tilting the skills for an MCA. Because a place like in my upcountry, an MCA wins with about 1,500 votes, like 1,500. So you can imagine if 10 groups can deliver almost 1,000 votes, literally 10 groups, what does that mean? So I think for us, we are using it actually as a political education tool for women political mobilizers to locate their role when it comes to meaningful participation in politics. And most of them, when they just sit back and watch the film, and remember the role that they've been doing. Remember how they've been dancing for the politicians throughout the whole year when they come to the community. Remember how they canvass, because majority of the women are the ones who do the campaigning work, the canvassing, convincing people, wearing the T-shirts and all that, you see. So yeah, I think...
Is it available? Where is it available, the film?
So currently, because we are still doing targeted community screenings in different informal and rural areas, it has not been released to the public. I think we only had like 2 public viewings last year, but we're still doing like targeted community screenings to continue gathering information on how can we elevate the way women political mobilizers engage in the community to even support in delivering the kind of leaders that we want to see. Like we said, the quality of citizens, the followership. Then how do we ensure that even when people are running for office, how can we also support them in these other fronts? Yeah.
Women kingmakers.
Yeah.
Now why?
Women kingmakers.
And they've always been. If you think about all the political campaigns that you can think about, and even the politicians, the way they speak, kina mama na vijana. Vijana wapate nafasi za ajira, na kina mama wapate ya kujimudu. Kwa biashara. It's always like that. And politicians will target the women because they are organized. Women are organized in groups.
True.
Youth the same. Youth are easy to mobilize. They are easy to, get on board and do the work.
Yeah.
So it's always that. The question now then would be, how do you, even after the work that's been done with the film and all, how do you get more women involved, number one? And then secondly, how do you get the women and youth who are getting involved to get involved more meaningfully? And how do we define that meaningful? So that also you do not sound like you're saying that those that have been participating so far have not been meaningful in their participation. How do we define this quality, elevating the quality and meaningfulness?
Yeah. So first of all, when we began the conversation, we were talking about consolidating our power as young people. So for me, I'm so glad that I get to work with young and thoughtful leaders in the work that we do in the communities. Currently, I love and appreciate the work that Siasa Place is doing. I love and appreciate the work that Tetezi, led by Nafula Wafula, is doing. I love and appreciate the work that Shiko Kihika is doing with Tribeless Youth. So people are actually trying to share this information, trying to create the platform, trying to use whichever means. You see, like Tribeless Youth is using art. You see, they're also working with the creatives. You see, our strength as Badili is grassroots, women in chamas, young people, young women in universities and, colleges and the community. So I think I just love the fact that when we come together, when we combine our efforts, then we are able to have a much bigger reach in terms of what we need to see, in terms of young people understanding how can I leverage social media for change. And I love the spaces that social media is also providing, because you see right now, before you have a rally in Uhuru Park, you need a permit, you need permission, you see. But then for you to have a Twitter space, you don't even need a permit. And I think that is what is even giving Gava sleepless nights. So just like, how do we ensure people get permits to hold a Twitter space or something? And I think that's a tool and a space that we really need to take advantage of, you see. And also at the community level, I always encourage even the grassroots community. You might not be on TikTok, but you can actually utilize your WhatsApp stories, you see, because majority of the women that we work with are not even on Twitter per se, but they're on WhatsApp. I'm like, you can actually utilize your WhatsApp stories to pass down information to other people who are also within your contact list. So I also love the role that social media is playing. I also love that young people, especially young people within different groups, within different organizations, are thinking creatively, in terms of how can we ensure these ideas work. People are combining their ideas, people are combining their resources, people are combining their time and energy. Yeah.
And we need that to be, it needs to be more collaborative, because it comes back to how does that then set the agenda?
Yes. Because
there's strength in numbers and amplification. And again, what we saw last year was that it was an overwhelming number of people saying the same thing.
Yes.
It's how can that be turned into a deeper, meaningful engagement and then scaled to be sustained until you're the one setting, at least playing a big part in setting the agenda in terms of who gets to vote, how. That's just the thing, is how do we turn all that into the magic that we need to see in 2027, which is magic, or before 2027, it starts much earlier. I think that's where my head is always at. It's 2025 February. I'm already like, we need so much more momentum by mid this year. But I think people wait until it's much later. So it's to her point, what can be happening now? Where are you plugging into? Beyond the conversations Bina is saying, beyond the platforms, how are you getting involved in primaries, civic education? How are you registering to be part of a party? Are you doing your own? I think that needs to start now. That's civic education.
And I also love the fact that right now we're talking about Generation Zote and not just Gen Z. And we are appreciating the role that every generation is playing. And I know even last year we did talk a lot about Gen Z, but also I think for me, I really appreciated also the millennials because of the intellectual capital, in terms of coming in the spaces and breaking down this financial information, and young people running with that financial information and turning it even into the local dialect. So I think I really did see the heavy lifting with the millennials in terms of intellectual capital. I think Latifia was hosting spaces almost every other day. I saw huge numbers that we don't even get to see in rallies. And I think it's just to continue honing in on the different strengths and people understanding that if you have critical information that can help the citizens understand what is visible power, what is invisible power, what is hidden power, how does power operate? Because you must understand how power operates to be able to transform those power systems that actually sustain the political elite in power, so that you just don't talk about removing one person from office and then not removing a system that has sustained them in power.
Because then you have the same, dealing with the same problem, just in a different cloth, right? It's like Scooby-Doo villains.
Yes. That's so funny.
Yes.
So much more to say. I know we need to wind up. Before Latif does, just messages. Matthews Ndubi, a clear understanding of the distinct roles within Kenya's 3 branches of government, executive, legislative, and judiciary, strengthens the system of checks and balances. Priska says, good morning, Bina, Janet, Eric, Mariam. The government is not listening to issues affecting Gen Z. How do we handle this? And finally, Matthew, again, one thing is we should promote and advocate for each and every young person to get their IDs. They should then register as voters when voter registration starts. Ya muhimu ni ID kwanza.
Oh, by the way, voter registration never closes.
Yeah, that's true. People always think
it never does. It never does close. What they do is they come with this, rapid results initiative program, once in a while, where they say, okay, now we are coming down to the grassroots. But today, if you've got an ID, go to the nearest IEBC office and say, nimekuja hapa, ndio hii kitambulisho, register me as a voter. And they should be able to do that. We thank you very much, Bina, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to have this conversation. Yeah, this is civic education as well. So
yes,
thank you so much
and
for
you will come
me.
and
I love this show.
And again. And again.
Fantastic show.
You.
Asante sana.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, so we have Your World coming up, right? And we don't know where the girls are today, but we'll find out shortly where the girls are today. But thank you very much.
Ground.
Ground Mali, right? Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. One conversation at a time. We've had 4 today, many more to come. Have a lovely day. See you again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. But also, if you missed any of our conversations today, you'll find them on YouTube. You'll find the recording on Facebook. You'll also find on your favorite podcast. It's 10 a.m. Have a good one.
See you.